My name is Roseanne BC, and I'm a certified health coach with the company called Optavia. I'm a coach because I love helping people transform their health and their lives. There's a couple different plans. It's safe for a lot of different people and a lot of different ages and places in their lives. I have so many clients that have had such great success, and there's a portion of the program that is you get your health coach. You get the products, but you also get a community of people who are there. So we do Zooms every Monday night nationwide. And if people want to get more involved with other people on the same journey as them, then they can join in and have that kind of support. The website you can reach me at is sacredrosehealthandwellness.com. And you can email me from there, or you can book a virtual coaching session there, where we can get your health assessment started and get you moving in the right direction.
Is it a rough? It's going to be a roughing the passer. The throw at the goal line. Caught by Christian Kirk. But there's no more time. And the Giants defense.
No doubt exactly the way Brian Dable wrote that one up, right, Zay?
Definitely, with all the penalties included.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to John About the GMen, Joe McGuire and King Zay. Sean Scanlon, I think, got the Coves. He is down and out in Beverly Hills, so no Sean Scanlon tonight. And Jace was so wrong about everything he thought about this game. We kicked him off for tonight.
They've been wrong about the whole season.
Yeah, Giants 23-17. Daniel Jones clearly, dude had his best game of the season. Threw for over 200 yards, 100 yards on the ground, and scored the big touchdown. A couple of things that this dude did in this game that I was like,
Barkley dancing around. He made room. And Barkley down to the 10.
Not that. That was Saquon doing Saquon stuff.
Daniel Jones keeps, and nothing yet.
That was a good one, too.
Blitz is on. Jones gets away with a lot of room. A first down.
I mean, dude was straight balling. He was that there's no other way to explain it. 6-1 New York Giants. This is a good football team, and people are gonna have to start dealing with that reality. That's just all I could say.
Yeah, I completely agree. They haven't been getting much respect. Obviously, they came into this game as underdogs, which we all were scratching our heads on how a team that's 5-1 could be underdogs to a team that is now 2-5, but 2-4 coming into the contest. Even being away, it didn't seem like an underdog situation. And I'm going to be real, it's honestly shouldn't have been a game that was as close as it was. I felt they benefited from a couple of great calls at the end, I guess if you want to call it that on their end. They were great calls for them. I called them phantom calls because I didn't see holding on a couple of they called, I believe, defensive holding on the interception that the Giants had, that there was no holding on that play. So I mean, they did everything to keep them in the game, but the Giants still found a way to win it. So it's a good team, Joe. They continue to find ways to win. You've talked about it many times before that the biggest thing the Giants have to do was learn how to win, and for the last couple of weeks, they've been figuring out how to win many different ways from many different positions, whether it's from behind or whether it's leading. They're finding ways to get the job done in the past where they would have completely blown games or came out flat in the second half and just gave games away that they competed very hard in the first half. But they're actually, like I said, they're competing. They're playing full games, 48 minutes. I don't know. I'm flabbergasted. I'm honestly don't know how to explain this team because, again, we came into this situation thinking there's a rebuild. The team's a rebuild. What do we, this year should have been a throwaway. And we've completely flipped the script. And I think me, just like other people, other, sports indicate, they don't know what to say about the Giants. It's honestly baffling.
Here's something I found really interesting with this game. Obviously, Saquon, not a great first half, right?
Correct.
The Giants finished the game with 39 carries for 236 yards. That's 6.1 yards per carry. Daniel Jones threw the ball 19 times for 30 yards, 19 out of 30 for 202 yards. There would have been under Joe Judge, if they couldn't have run that football in the first half, you know what they would have done? Daniel Jones would have ended up throwing about 45 passes in that game, and they would have lost it.
Mm-hmm.
They stayed with the run, and it took a while. Saquon eventually did what he does, went on a nice long run, set up Daniel Jones' short touchdown run. It was staying with the game plan. It was doing the things that you do that are successful. One of the things they keep saying with Brian Daboll is Brian Daboll says he's going to put his players in a position to succeed. And I thought really where Joe Judge, I think most failed Daniel Jones was he's a mobile quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who can run for 100 yards in a game. He's got speed. He can use his legs. I thought, again, he's making good decisions on when to run. He's making good decisions on when to check down. He's been very accurate when he throws the ball down the field. I mean, Darius Slayton has dropped at least a couple of touchdown passes on the season. So Daniel Jones is maturing and growing. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to come to terms with, because if you look at Baker Mayfield, if you look at Mitch Trubisky, if you look at Sam Darnold, you look at some of these guys who, after they got moved, the hope was maybe, and they haven't panned out, and they're probably not going to. To see Daniel Jones make a turnaround like he's made this year is, I think, very difficult for a lot of people. I think it speaks volume about Brian Daboll and what he's able to do. But this is pretty much the same team as last year.
Different leadership. Again, we go look at New England.
It's 100% that day, because it's the same players, less like two really good ones.
But again, look at New England. They've taken Joe Judge. They've taken Matt Patricia, two coaches who were leading franchises, and people felt they weren't doing a good job of it. And look what they've done to Mac Jones. Mac Jones has regressed so much from year one under those two, litters, whatever you want to call it. Under them two, he has regressed really, really, really bad. He's almost to the point where Belichick has even considered benching him. It's really bad what's going on over there. But again, it shows you what John Merritt talked about earlier. They screwed this kid up. For 4 years, they screwed it. Think about it. You just said he threw for 20 yards, and his receivers can't catch for damn. Imagine if he had somebody out there that can actually catch. He'd be lighting up these damn scoreboards. Again, we want to overlook things. We keep comparing him to Eli Manning based off his mannerisms. He's not Eli Manning. He is Daniel Jones. He's his own quarterback and his own thing. They do things completely different. And I think in the beginning, a lot of the offense, they were trying to model it under this Eli Manning. Let's try to make him Eli Manning 2.0. But he's not Eli Manning 2.0. And we're seeing that now. The Giants are creating an identity. That run is now creating an identity that the Giants have not had for a while. We don't know what they were on offense, but now we know this team is a downhill running team that if they ever get some receivers can take you up top also. But for now, they are focused on downhill. It's working for them. They got the linemen that has helped, their run game get completely better. We've seen what it was over the years. We always mention the line, and the line is completely improved. We don't even talk about Daniel Jones and the sack issues and the turnover issues. All that has been mitigated just based off of bringing in people who know what they are doing. And again, I want to shout out Julian Love before we get it, because he completely flipped the momentum in that game with that fumble on ETN in the end zone, because that would have been a sealer.
I'll tell you who my favorite Giant is, who I didn't expect would ever be someone who I am a big fan of, and that's Fabian Moreau. I mean, that guy keeps coming into games. He actually led the Giants in tackles this past week, as well as passes defended. He comes into the game and everybody comes right at him. And he has, I mean, for a journeyman in this league, he has played outstanding football for the New York Giants. And you're right about Julian Love, man. He is, and you said he was gonna step up and get the job done, and he's really been outstanding all season. I like 28 touches for Saquon Barkley. I like 24 carries. Again, the rush wasn't working. They stuck to it. 24 carries. He eventually broke it by his 18th, 19th carry. You got to stick with your game plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, it's as simple as that. You got to run what these guys are good at, and they've done it, and it's paying off. And again, I'll say this: I think the rest of the NFL is so massively flawed. There are two great teams in the NFL right now. I think the Bills are one of them, and I think the Chiefs are the other one, and I think everybody else has a shot, except for the teams, right? You get to the bottom that don't have a shot based on their record at this point. This really, to me, Zay, is anybody's game. I mean, there's no reason why the Giants can't win the NFC. I mean, again, outside of, we'll have to see what they do when they play Philly, and we'll have to see what they do when they get another crack at Dallas, because if you can get by those two teams, I'm not worried about anybody else at this point at all. I'm really not.
Well, think about it. We're in week 8 now already? So, I mean, I think the worst the Giants could finish, obviously, I don't think they're going to blow everything. I think we could be really looking at a worst case scenario 11-5, 11-6, excuse me, something like that. We could really be looking at worst case scenario 11-6 if things, and that's if things fall off the rails. You know what I'm saying? Because at the rate they're going, and you look at this schedule, outside of Dallas and Philly and Minnesota, maybe I don't know who they are losing to. You bring up next week. Obviously we'll get into that later. They're missing a huge part in not having DK Metcalf. Then you have a bye week, and then obviously it'll be interesting to see how the Giants respond. After a bye week up against a team that isn't good, but we've known for many, many years those are considered trap games where you're coming off a bye, your team is hot, they're playing well, and then you play a team who isn't probably on your level, and you end up dropping the ball. But if Dable can coach those guys up, you could be walking into Thanksgiving with one loss still.
It's very possible. It's very possible. Let's say you lose to Dallas. You're 8-2. You beat Washington 9-2. Maybe you lose to Philly 9-3. Beat Washington 10-3. 10-4 if you lose to the Vikings.
Couldn't see them
11
to the Colts.
11. Yeah, I mean, I think 12-5. I think it is a realistic possibility. Now, listen.
That's what I said. Worst case scenario, 11-6. That could be. But again, Dable has these guys confident. Like you keep mentioning, he has these journeymen who couldn't make it anywhere else, and now they're fiddling into this go-go gadget defense, and they're playing some of the best football they've played in their careers based off the confidence and the positions that the coaches have put them in to succeed. It really is shocking. The Giants and Eagles crash course, that could be a crash course for the division. Like that, literally at the end of it, we've seen it many times where the last game of the week has come down to, Cowboys, Eagles, or, Washington. You know what I'm saying? It always comes down to one of the two teams in the division. And I think that's some reason why they probably make those games the last games of the week. But
yeah,
that could be huge. That could be a tie-breaking situation. That, obviously it's a divisional series situation, so you could have more divisional wins. There's so much that could go into that. Obviously, they've beaten, we haven't beaten anybody in our division yet, so we're 0-1. They're clear. I believe they're 2-0 in their division. So we have to make up games again in tie-breaking situations. All this, that last game can be so huge. I'm just trying to, emphasize how huge that game could be.
Don't you now think back on that Dallas game and what a miserable 2020 performance that was from that looked like a prime Joe Judge letdown team against. They were bad. They were bad, and they didn't have the posture and the poise that they've had every other week this season. And a buddy of mine's a Cowboys fan, and he said something the other day like, "Nah, the Giants are trash." And I was like, dude, you're judging it off that one game. And he said, no. He's like, I've watched all the games. I'm like, if you watched all the games, you're a moron or you're a liar. It's like one or the other, because you're clearly not watching their games. This is a much improved football team. Again, I'm not saying this is like the 86 Giants, by no means.
No, not
but
even close.
This team has done an outstanding job of stopping the other team from scoring points.
They're keeping them within 20 points a game. The teams are averaging about 20 points a game on the Giants.
20 to the Titans, 16 to the Panthers, the Cowboys 23, Bears 12, Packers 22, Ravens 20, Jaguars 17. That's where you need to be, and you need to be able to score in the low 20s, and that's what they're doing week in and week out. 20 points, 22 points, 27 points. That's it. Just enough to win these games. They've done a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage. Again, you're not seeing a ton of long runs against them, the occasional blown assignment, but for the most part, even blitzing as much as they do 53% of the time, still haven't really gotten burned in 7 games.
I mean, I would say it did affect us in the passing game. It gave Trevor Lawrence a ton of passing opportunities with the blitzing we had. We continue to leave play. Kirk was streaking across the field almost every time. It felt like he was open, like someone, I don't know if he missed that assignment or maybe because you're blitzing, there just aren't enough people to cover that assignment. So you have to hope, he falls in the zone near somebody. But again, like you said, when you're a blitzing defense, getting burnt that's going to happen to you. That's just part that just comes with it. But again, to point out another thing, you talked about the linemen in the run game. The Giants haven't had a solid starting line play for them all year. When you look at the line, these guys are beat up, bang up. They just keep slipping guys in, and they haven't missed a beat.
Yeah.
Obviously it slowed down a little bit in Jacksonville first half, but then it picked up in the second half. Obviously Neal went down, and then they fill in another guy. Bredesen goes down, put in another guy. It's just plug and play, and it's beautiful. It's
like that wide receiver core and like the secondary. They're just popping any old buddy back there. I think that does speak to how well coached they are and how prepared these guys are, that second, third stringers are popping into games, and, couple of series, everybody's gelling and they're on their way. So, yeah, I mean, just another game too, dude, where I don't even understand it. Like, I sit there and I watch it and I think it's in the bag.
I watched it in the fourth quarter and I was like, look, I literally watched that game and say, hey, we just got to get to the fourth quarter.
It's still weird, dude. I forgot what it's like to feel confident in the Giants. And now every week I'm just like, oh yeah, no sweat.
I completely agree.
This has been such a great season. Yeah. All right. We'll take a quick break and we're going to come back and we will do a preview of the New York Giants game against those tough Seattle Seahawks next.
There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All right. Giants and the Seahawks 425 game is in Seattle.
Woo!
The Seahawks are 4-3,
America's
and
game of the week.
this team has been odd. Geno Smith is straight up balling out right now. 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's been brilliant for this football team. Kenneth Walker III, who I had high hopes for in fantasy, is definitely starting to pay off. And the always dangerous Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf, I think, is out of this game.
Might be out for the season. Knee injury went down, carted off. I still haven't got an update on that, but it didn't look too good.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that severe. I did, because he's on my fantasy. That's the problem. Okay. That's something I'll have to deal with later on tonight. But yeah,
it was a non-contact injury too. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the worst. And it's funny. I was just watching last night. I was watching him run down Buda Baker.
I was watching that too.
Yeah, hilarious. This team's been outstanding so far this year. 4-3. They've had some weird games. They got blown out by the Niners. They were in a shootout with the Lions. They had the Saints. The Saints came back and beat them. Weird game against Arizona a couple weeks ago. And then somehow, some way, they beat the Chargers last week. And I think it's fair to ask this question before we talk about the Seahawks. How overrated are the Chargers and Justin Herbert? I'm serious, dude. I'm so tired of this guy. Dude. Throwing for 300 yards. He always throws a big pick. He gets sacked a lot. I don't know.
He hasn't even been recently that good, obviously. He's had a rib injury that's been obviously holding him back. That's something, serious. We've seen what happened with Tyrod.
Everybody's a little banged up.
Yeah, but again, a rib injury with that medical staff, they almost killed Tyrod Taylor. So you gotta take a chance, take it easy on him. He hasn't obviously been the greatest this year. The Chargers have been completely an underwhelming team. I thought this was probably a team could be a lock for like maybe an AFC championship. The way, people were talking about them preseason, ESPN and everybody was just giving, Justin Herbert and them just such high praise, and they put up a bunch of numbers and they score, they put up a bunch of yards and they score these points. But again, that hasn't really amounted to much. And I think they're in a peculiar situation similar to the Seahawks, where I think they're sitting in this middle of the pack where, like, the NFL has some really good teams, and then the middle of the pack are just like these teams that could be good but play mediocre at times. And I think that's the dilemma you're running into. They're mixing it with these Atlanta Falcons, these Colts, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, these teams that, the Broncos, teams that should be really, really good but play very mediocre at times. So it's really hard to get a grasp upon the NFL of who's really, really good and who's really, really bad, because at the end, it's a week-to-week basis,
Yeah.
Obviously, outside of the consistency of the New York, Philly, and the Jets, everyone's been really up and down. Yeah. The Miami looked like they were going to win maybe the AFC East at one point. Then their quarterback goes down. Then the other quarterback goes down. Now they're sitting at 3-3 in the middle of the pack, or 3-4, whatever they are, and they look lost. So again, this is a really messy season, and I don't understand why. I guess maybe teams failed to realize their situation in the offseason, similar to maybe the Packers, who I don't know what they were looking at receiver-wise in the offseason and on draft night, but they decided not to grab a receiver. And then you look at New England. I mean, you look at, not New England, the Broncos. I mean, my God, the Buccaneers and Tom Brady over there. And I guess they felt maybe if they had Brady, they can win. But you lost a lot of guys on defense. You lost a lot of guys on offense. Chris Godwin hasn't beat Chris Godwin since his injury. I haven't even seen him all year. I haven't even heard from him. Well,
how about
there's a lot of mediocre.
As good as the Bills are, the Bills have the exact same problem they had last season. The exact same problem. So, again, you mentioned Green Bay. Like, there's a lot of teams that are really flawed, and it's showing up in a really big way. I mean, look at the Colts. My God, since Andrew Luck, it's been one QB after another. Matt Ryan to the bench now.
But they're supposed to be one quarterback away.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be a quarterback away, and they're not. Just like the Broncos, a quarterback away. That's all we heard. Oh, get straight for Russell Wilson. They're a quarterback away. Mediocre. The mediocrity in the league this year has been ridiculous. And again, I think it's to what you said. Owners, GMs, they get complacent. I guess they feel that I don't know. They don't need to up. We talked about this with the Giants in 2012. The Giants should have started their rebuild at 2013.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this. They weren't really that good. They snuck in 2012 and they won it on a whim. They should have started that rebuild then, and they didn't. And we saw how many years that put us back. And there are a ton of teams right now that next year are going to be starting that rebuild process. I mean, again, what are you doing if you're the Packers? What are you doing if Aaron Rodgers leaves? Who's your heir apparent? Jordan Love, the guy who gets no reps?
Yep.
There are a lot of teams that need to look themselves in the mirror and realize you're not what you used to be 5-6 years ago. You need to start rebuilding and retooling. It's just...
All right. Let's talk about this football game. Seattle's actually scoring 26 a game. So the Giants are going to have to tighten up, only giving up 18.6. They're going to have to lock them down. This team's running for about 137 yards a game. The Giants offense passing and rushing 176.3 and 173.4. Do you get any more balance than that? That's ridiculous. That is unbelievable. Listen, the DK Metcalf thing is going to be a big issue for them. I like Tyler Lockett. He's also on my fantasy team, and he always puts up some points, but he's not like a breakout guy. And I think if all eyes are on him, he's going to have a really tough time. And especially the way this Giants secondary has been playing, you're going to have to get some pressure on Geno. They did a nice job a couple weeks ago actually, say the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. They did the same thing with Lamar Jackson. I think they did a really good job, neutralizing his ability to make plays on his feet. Those guys are obviously going to make a few, but if you could minimize the damage, I thought they did a nice job of that. And Seattle's defense is erratic as heck. So I think this Giants team will be able to move the football. I think the Giants should walk out of here with a dub. I'm thinking like this is like a 24-20 game.
As long as it's a W, I'm absolutely fine with it. I completely want a W, but again, the best thing the Giants have done all year has been taking team's best player, isolating that player, and basically shutting them down. When you talk about the Panthers, CMC didn't really do much. The Titans, Henry, we didn't really hear much from him that game. It was really bad. The Bears don't have anybody. That game it is what it is on that game. Green Bay, obviously, they took away he had nothing receiving wise. He had nothing passing. It got bad for them in the second half. The first half was a little rough, but the second half, they did a job of taking away all Aaron Rodgers' weapons and basically making him have to win the game.
Yep.
And obviously, like you said, Lamar and Travis Etienne, two other players, they did a good job mitigating. Travis Etienne did great in the first half, but the second half completely disappeared. And the Giants, again, are great at taking away players. And I think, again, this week they'll do that. They'll take away options. When you talk about Geno Smith, and you're talking about, he's playing for nothing. He's playing with house money. He has nothing to lose. He may not be there. He may be there next year. He knows he's not the future, but, he has nothing to lose. That obviously makes it a dangerous team to play. But again, I completely agree with you. I think the Giants should pull this out, and not based off of just the Giants. I believe in what Mike Kafka is doing. He's not getting a lot of praise, and that's what I want to say. Mike Kafka has been calling a great offense. He's been making things easy on Daniel Jones. Obviously, Daniel Jones doesn't have the weapons. He's realized that, and he's made Daniel Jones more successful finding ways to get the ball to playmakers without Daniel Jones having to put the ball 45 yards, 50 yards down the field in the air. And again, kudos to Mike Kafka for that. And I think he is the key to the Giants winning, because I think they'll shut them down defensively. It's if they can score, which is always the question every week for the Giants. But again, should be an easy win for them.
Yeah, listen, this team is much improved. This would be their first 5-game winning streak in I don't know how many decades that it might be. I don't even know, but that's what the Giants are on the cusp of doing right now. Again, with a Seattle team that won't have its best player on the field. And as you said, the Giants will be able to neutralize whoever they deem that to be. Should be a good game for the Giants. And again, I think I was so hopeful again last week, seeing them not able to run the football and not quitting on the football, and that this wasn't a game where Saquon had 13 carries, because if you would have stopped rushing him at 13 carries and you would have asked Daniel Jones to throw their way, I mean, that's not a recipe for a victory.
Not that he's a bad thrower. He has no receiver.
No, again, right? Clear. I mean, but I mean, listen, and I think we've said this before. Look, if anybody's throwing the ball 45 times in a game, it's not your best day, right? You're probably unless you're Joe Burrow, but otherwise, yeah. I mean, that's typically you're behind. I don't think that's a good spot to be in. And again, well, listen, a lot of the times that's what the Giants did. You abandoned the run. And you're asking Daniel Jones to throw the ball 40, 45 times. And yeah, I mean, the other team's sitting back. Of course, you're going to make bad decisions and throw picks. You're already down. You're making desperation heaves again to be in a situation where he's running out the clock on games. He's gotten pretty masterful at locking that thing down late. So
we've seen more quarterback kneels. We've seen the Giants end the ball with the game with the ball more this year than we have in the last 5 years combined. It's
the Giants invented the victory formation. That was the direct result of that Herm Edwards play where they botched the final handoff. So we finally gotten a chance to run that play a few times now. What do you got for a best bet this week?
I didn't even get a chance to look at this.
I think the obvious one.
I think
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go with the Gents, the GMen. It's +3.
Easy though.
Yeah.
You know what? I want the Eagles upset. I want them to be upset. I want it so bad, but
here's what's going to happen too. When the Eagles lose, it's going to be like one of those like 31-9 losses where like the wheels came off the bus. It's not going to be like a last second.
It'll be the day they make Jalen Hurts actually have to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what anyone says. Jalen Hurts, he was benched for Tua.
Well, listen, again, if you're the Eagles, right, you don't want Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 30, 35, 40 times. If you're doing that you're begging to lose a football game.
Apparently, Sirianni doesn't want him to throw it 11 times. The man has 6 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones has all that with no receivers, and he's got 2 really good receivers. So imagine that.
Yeah, he's not a really great quarterback, but he's suiting the needs, and they're getting the dubs, and at the end of the day, it's all that matters.
Give me the Steelers.
All that matters.
+10.5. Give me the Steelers.
+10.5. You're taking the Steelers and the 10.5.
I know, honestly, I know it's a trap game. If they putting it like that because they expect Philly to blow them out. Something about this coming off a bye. Give me +10.5.
All right.
Something about this. If it wasn't coming off a bye, I'd be like, yeah, but something about this.
I realize it's cheap and easy me taking the Giants, but how often do we get to do that? Like, honestly.
Ride that horse until you can't ride no more.
Yeah. Doing it and doing it up. All right, that's going to do it for us for this week. Hopefully Sean's better next week. I think Zay's not Zay. I think Jace is going to be gone again next week, so you can count on at least me and Zay breaking down another giant dub over the Seattle Seahawks. Again, 425 game. Go Giants. Make sure you visit clevercrestmedia.com/John About the G-Men. And make sure you follow us on social media, John About the G-Men. That's it for this week. See you next time.
Blitzes on. Jones gets away with a lot of room. A first down.